Hey, thanks for joining today. So today we've got a recording of a webinar that we held recently, and this is about advanced CMDB use in Jira Service Management. So this goes kind of well beyond, I think, what traditional use is and doing IT asset discovery and as loading up into your CMDB. So today we're looking at other uses for the asset module in Jira. And I think you'll find this really useful when you want other parts of the business to start leveraging your investment in Jira Service Management. So into facilities, into legal, HR, as well as if you're in IT, doing a whole lot more. So we'll jump into it now, and I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. So today what we're going to be covering is the use of kind of an advanced use of the CMDB within Jira Service Management. So I'm expecting that all of you with us today have some familiarity with JSM. We tend to find that, across all of our customers who use JSM, a smaller proportion are using Premium, which has the asset capability. And in fact, most of those clients using the asset element are using it for managing IT assets. It's kind of the standard approach. So what we want to share with you today is moving beyond that. And whether you're currently using asset or not, I think you'll find this useful. And so the use case we're going to be looking at is the opportunity to use the CMDB within JSM to codify your business rules and processes, and doing that to improve how teams manage their work. And so if you do that, the result will be that you'll have an improvement in the quality of work that gets done. You'll improve the application of governance and controls in a way that actually doesn't hamper how people do their work. And so you'll be reducing risk and then resulting issues. So there's some real powerful benefits in doing this. And, coming back to the use case for JSM Premium, Premium is roughly twice the cost of standard, right? So, customers who are using it for asset management generally justify that increased spend on the value of managing IT assets. Fair enough. But I'd suggest to you that the value that you can extract and deliver from codifying your business rules and processes will deliver far more value across the organization rather than, just managing IT assets. So again, I think you'll find this really interesting. So if you're there, using JSM and you're not yet managing assets, then I'd encourage you to consider this scope that we're going to be covering today as a highly valuable initiative that you could consider taking on. So we're going to run through a couple of demonstrations, some use cases of, what does this look like? And before I get into that, I want to reinforce that, what you're going to see is that using, why use asset within JSM to do this? And you'll see in the demo that the CMDB, the schema within the asset module, allows you to create a really clear structure in defining business rules. And that makes it just so much easier for you to update. And that means that you've got the ability to easily keep those rules current. And that means then that you'll have, that'll be the key to long-term use and long-term value. So our use cases will run through 3 use cases today. We'll be having a look at financial delegations. So an example of defining that. So a situation where you might have different people or groups of people that need to be involved in approving spend, depending on what those spend levels are. So I'll have a look at that. The second one will be the use of application approvers. So this is a little more kind of in the IT realm. So you can view this as a governance model where we've got a range of different people or groups of people that need to be engaged as either approvers or stakeholders within a particular business process. And our example will be access to an application, but it could be any business process. And then the third one we'll cover will be the definition of a priority matrix. Again, kind of in the IT realm, you'll understand that. But this is an example of a more mechanical structured business process, right? So we've got, for a range of different conditions, we're defining different outputs. The priority matrix is an example, but you could apply it to any other kind of mechanical structured process. So they're the three we're going to be going through. I don't think it'll take us kind of more than maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And so at the end of that, you're welcome to, well, I'd encourage you as we're going through that, send your questions through, because then we can have a bunch of questions that we can discuss at the end, and we'll take it from there. So I've got Jackson Barnier, one of our consultants, is here to take us through the demonstration. And so I'll hand over to you, Jackson. We'll start with the first one for financial delegations.
Yep, I appreciate your attention, guys. I'm Jackson. So first off, we're just raising a simple IT equipment request. I'll just give it a little summary, description. And now when I select a value, so I'm selecting a value that's closest to the expected cost of this equipment request. Depending on what I select here, I have a different approver that this goes to. So for $250, that's automatically approved. And for $1,000, we have an approver set. So I'll raise two requests here. Okay, now I'm just going to jump into the object schema. So in here, we have our financial delegation. I have an approver set for each of these values. And we'll see these coming in and setting our approver. So I selected $1,000, so we should see Kale. If I open up this and give it a refresh. Okay, we'll open this one first. So I can see my approver has been set to Kale, and you'll remember I did say that $250 is automatically approved. We can see that that has jumped in its workflow to waiting for support. So that's completed that transition there.
And Jackson, if you just jump to the object schema there.
Yep.
Because it's useful just to kind of sit here for a quick minute, and just so that people can have a look at this. So you may or may not be familiar with the CMDB structure within JSM. And so, you know, one of the really, really powerful things about Asset in JSM is that you can create any number of schema. So schema, you know, is a database. So you'll have a schema for your IT assets. You may have schema for branch locations, any number of pieces of data. And so what we've got here is a schema that happens to include some hardware assets. We've got some software assets. And then Jackson's got, under the organization area, he's got employees, and you can see down there the financial delegations. And so the asset piece, using CMDB. We're going to have another session later, maybe in a couple of months, where we'll dive into use of the CMDB and schema, and it'll be particularly around asset management. But you can see from this that it's pretty easy to navigate. For our customers, we typically set this up, set up a V1, and then it's easy for clients to modify and work with those moving forward. So I just wanted to pause on that, kind of show you the structure. But that structure is as flexible as you need it to be. So there really is really complete flexibility in how you structure this, and equally the data that you want to add. So with that, Jax, I'll get you to then move into the example of the application approver.
Yep. So we could just go back to the portal. I'll open up a request for application access. So this should pipe into my application approver or my application owner and let them know that the requester is requesting access for their app. So we can see this here is a asset selecting field, and I've piped this down to just my applications. And I'll select Google Chrome. So I'll send this off, and we should see in the object schema, I can look at it from two angles. I'll look at it here first. If I open up John's object graph, we can see that he's the application owner for Google Chrome. And he also has a couple other roles in his attributes. And if I go to my applications on the other side of things, I have Google Chrome with its application manager. And now I should see this pop into my queue. And we've got John as my approver. So it's waiting for his approval. And yeah, it's a good way to, yes, assign this to a particular group. It could be a support group or a team of approvers. Depending on what application object you are selecting.
All right, very good. And then let's have a quick look at the object schema for approvers. So where was that again? That was there under the applications. Yep. Makes sense. Okay. And let's do that. Let's have a look at the last one then, the priority matrix.
Okay, so for our priority matrix, we are taking the use case that there's a system problem at the moment. Just going to give this a summary, a description, mention the system that's down, which is financial systems. Now, depending on what I select in my urgency and impact here, I'm going to have a different priority associated, and we find that priority through the asset data, or the CMDB, sorry. So I create this as medium and moderate and limited. Now I'll go to the schema and I will show you what this priority matrix looks like. So with one single project, we can reference multiple CMDBs in the assets. So this is a completely different one, you'll notice. If I flash the old one, you can see I've got a lot of IT related configurations in there, whereas this is kind of my back-end information stored in here. So we can see for medium, once we get a match on the impact and urgency, that will fill in to my incident. And that's how we are setting priority through this. And we can see that my priority here has been set to medium.
Yeah. And that's, priority matrix is a bit of a simple application. Most people tend to leave priority as a editable field and may or may not even use impact or urgency. But the example here really wanted to illustrate for you was that ability to, have this kind of static structure of conditions and outcomes. So they're kind of the three use cases. There's a couple of questions. I'll get to those in a second. So just coming back to what we've looked at, so the opportunity here, as I said, it's about codifying your business process, your governance, any other business rules that you've got. And so we've looked at examples where You can have a business rule that includes the definition of people with delegations or a role that they have. We've looked at the inclusion of things like spend, so data points that whether they're spend or application. So we've looked at those different kinds of data points that link people to responsibility and accountability. And then we've had a look at a kind of this more simple structure of really data inputs and data outputs. So that's kind of an example, and I hope that makes sense, because I think there's enormous value in this. Now, there's a couple of questions that I'll talk about now. And so Esther asks about syncing data with data repositories that may be in other systems, in an ERP or something. So let's say, for example, we've got, if we think about our financial delegations, and you may have something already defined in ERP. You might have people that have a defined kind of management level in maybe an HR system or some other, or in the ERP. So we can certainly sync that data, and the difficulty of syncing that data depends. So, we find we have most flexibility when we just define an API link. So Jira's got plenty of great webhook capability to go out and pull information in. So I don't expect really to have too many issues in linking that data. There may be some apps available in the marketplace. So, for example, there are apps to connect to Salesforce. So, we could potentially ingest particular Salesforce data points and bring them into the CMDB or into the Jira structure. So there's a bit of investigation to figure out what's the most effective, pragmatic way of getting that data link happening. But certainly there are better ways than having kind of a manual export import in doing that. So Esther, in answering your question, I'd give it a thumbs up. The only question is, what's the best way of doing that? Now, Vicky, you asked a question around, can we actually set the assignee of a ticket? That was actually one of the use cases we were going to demonstrate. Did you, Jackson, do you want to show that one quickly?
Yep. So I swapped my request type. Instead of I need application access, this time I need application support. Add a summary, add a description, select my application. We can do Google Chrome again. This will actually assign my issue to John. Right. So in here, he's my application manager. We could also have extra details in here with support groups and whatnot, and that can populate any field you like. Now, if we go back to a queue, should find support. My assignee is John, and by default, they're unassigned. If I quickly show you that.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
Yeah, and that, we actually see that use case quite a lot. We see that clients will say, look, particularly if they're dealing with supporting external client organizations, there might be a particular agent or groups of agents that support, platinum, gold, silver accounts. So we'll use this type of mechanism to assign a ticket to a particular agent based on the client. It might be based on the priority, like we've got here, based on the application that's relevant. So yeah, certainly all of that. I mean, you can start to see that, the important thing here is actually thinking about, how does my team work? What are the business processes that are around us, and how do I bring them into, this work management application being Jira, and make things more seamless and more robust. So hopefully, Vicky, that kind of answers your question in that regard. What's this one? Esther's talking more. Can we show how we can manage and build relationships between different schema? Oh, yeah. Well, so can we show it's probably get bogged down because we only have a few minutes left. But certainly, relationships and links between the schema and bringing those into the business rule is all possible. Now, there are two components to delivering this outcome. One really important component is the object schema that Jax, if you just go to any object schema. So firstly, we need to have an object schema that makes sense, that captures all the information you need. And like we were showing before, you can have a look at the object graph that shows all the data connectivity between records, and that connection can go from one schema to another. Now, the other element of delivering this outcome is the automation in Jira Service Management. We're not going to go into that. That looks a lot more techo. We can have another session if people are interested in seeing the automation. But that automation is about triggering on the request. Obviously, something's happening within Jira. We need to execute the business rule. So the automation will kick off and go into the CMDB, pull out the relevant data points that are needed and bring them into the Jira issue. So, linking things like priority and approval and a number of different data points is certainly possible, and executing, if you like, that broader business logic is certainly possible. So we can do that. And again, if there's interest, we can have another session on that. And Vicky's last question, so maximum amount of assets that the logic can use, can we assign a ticket if the application is... So there are some limitations. It's not really about kind of number of assets or anything like that. It's more around in the automation, how many executions of the automation can you run? And Atlassian is making changes to the way that it defines those limits. We're moving to a definition that says only successful automations will ever get counted. Automation limits are now being separated into products. So Jira Software, Jira Service Management, Jira Work Management will have their own limits for automation executions. And Premium gives you much more, a much higher limit than Standard. So, and really to the extent that we've never had a situation where we're even nudging those limits. So we don't need to worry about any of that. So, but certainly, if you shouldn't hesitate to kind of reach out to us afterwards, and we can kind of talk about specific scenarios and how we might skin those cats to get an outcome in the best way. So just last question from Esther. A bit of data points. Yeah, look, I don't think, you don't need to be.
John, I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. No, I can't.
All right, let me try that. How's that?
That's good.
Okay. The other, so question from Esther about, look, it looks like there's lots of data points we need to have before it can become kind of effective. Then that's really not the case. It's, with all of this stuff, and, you should start small and start simple. So, if you've got asset there, you can go and create your own schema, specific schema for what you need. And it might be something simple, take that simple financial delegations. You don't need to bring any data from outside, and just start structuring up a simple business rule. So, I think that if you look at those business processes that you may want to codify into asset, there's sure you may have plenty, but have a look at the 80-20 and pick a couple of high value ones first and have a V1 attempt at them. And again, look, if you're wondering how to approach that, like I said, just reach out to us. We can have a conversation. Happy to give you some guidance and get you moving on your way. None of this is particularly, no magic needs to happen here. The real value is in thinking through that translation of the business process into how is it best configured within JSM. So this is asking, is there a recommendation on the best lowest hanging fruit? Look, I think, it's every business is different. When we have this conversation with clients, clients will say, well, tell me, give me the most popular answer for this. And it's always different, so again, kind of have a think about, maybe from an IT services support perspective, if you think about the catalog of services that you're populating on your portal, and have a look at those requests that maybe you're touching too much. You're manually adding approvers. There's just a whole lot of manual triage going into the fulfillment of those requests. They would be good candidates where you can set up a business rule and then back it into that request process. And, not only have you got the benefit of now having some defined business rules, but you've now kind of automated some more of that provisioning process. So that'll be quicker, less manual involvement. So everyone's kind of winning out of that. So again, just kind of have a look at those things that are manual within how the team's working. And again, we can have a chat separately and help you kind of shake the blanket on what might be a good place to start. So look, here we are, nearly 30 minutes. So we need to wrap up. We've recorded the session, so it'll go up onto our YouTube channel where we've got lots of other recorded content. So you'll receive an email with the link there. So look, certainly appreciate the time in joining us today. As said, we'll be doing more sessions in the next couple of months. So stay tuned for that. And we'll wish you a good day, and thanks again. Catch you later.
Thank you, guys.